What Guenther Steiner and Oscar Piastri have just said about McLaren and the FIA has sent absolute shockwaves through the Formula One paddock. The tension that had been quietly building for weeks has finally exploded into the open, and the picture it paints of McLaren's internal chaos is brutal. This isn't just a disagreement about a penalty. This is about loyalty, trust, and the way a team either protects or abandons its own driver when the pressure is at its peak. The FIA handed Oscar Piastri a 10-second penalty at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix for an opening corner clash with Kimi Antonelli. The paddock was divided, but McLaren's reaction stunned everyone. They didn't appeal, didn't question, didn't even stand up for their young title contender. And that silence has now come back to haunt them. Guenther Steiner, a man famous for never biting his tongue, said that lack of fight was simply unforgivable. He called McLaren out publicly, accusing the team of failing their own driver and letting the FIA's decision go unchallenged while the championship slipped through their fingers. Steiner didn't hold back. In his eyes, McLaren's refusal to defend Piastri shows exactly what's wrong with the team's mindset right now. Too polished, too diplomatic, too afraid to upset anyone in a sport that rewards those who fight tooth and nail. He said that even if they couldn't overturn the penalty, they should have gone straight to the stewards to make their case to show that they believed in their driver. Because for someone like Steiner, it's not just about winning arguments. It's about sending a message to the FIA, to the fans, and to the people back at the factory that your team won't be pushed around. His words cut deep. If you don't fight for your own driver, then what are you even doing? It was a savage indictment, not just of McLaren's leadership, but of a culture that seems to be losing its edge. And then came the even bigger bombshell, Steiner's warning to Piastri himself. He suggested that if McLaren continue down this path, if they keep letting the FIA and their own internal rules dictate the outcome of races, then maybe Piastri should walk away. According to Steiner, the young Australian is too talented, too sharp to waste his prime years in a team that won't go to battle for him. It's a statement that has lit a fire under the paddock because for the first time, someone has said out loud what others have been thinking. McLaren's obsession with harmony and image may be driving one of the brightest young stars in Formula One towards the exit. And when you combine that with Piastri's growing frustration after months of strategic missteps and lost momentum, you can feel that this story is only just beginning to unfold. So stay tuned, because in this video, we're diving deep into exactly what Steiner and Piastri have said, the shocking evidence behind McLaren's silence, and how it all could lead to one of the most dramatic team shakeups of the season. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and stick around until the very end, because what's happening inside McLaren right now could change Oscar Piastri's future in Formula One forever. Steiner's comments about McLaren and Oscar Piastri have shaken the Formula One world because they come from someone who has lived and breathed the paddock. His outburst wasn't just another fiery rant, it was a reality check directed at a team that, in his view, has forgotten what real racing spirit means. When Piastri was hit with that controversial 10-second penalty in Brazil, Steiner's reaction wasn't about defending the collision itself. It was about what happened afterwards. McLaren's silence, their failure to stand up to the FIA, their decision to simply accept a ruling that even neutral figures like Charles Leclerc and Martin Brundle found questionable. For Steiner, that silence was more damning than any mistake on track. He made it clear that a team fighting for championships cannot afford to sit quietly while their driver takes the blame, especially when the evidence suggests he wasn't fully at fault. In Steiner's eyes, McLaren's handling of the situation exposed a lack of backbone that he believes separates true race teams from polished corporations. He said that if it had been him, he'd have marched straight into the steward's office to argue the case. Not necessarily because he thought he would win, but because that's what a leader does. You show your team that you care, that you'll go to war for them even if the odds are stacked against you. That act of defiance, he argued, builds unity, trust, and belief. It reminds the mechanics, engineers, and driver that everyone's in this together. McLaren, however, did nothing. And to Steiner, that's a betrayal. And he didn't say it as gossip. He said it as a warning. In Formula One, loyalty is a luxury that only makes sense when the team deserves it. A driver's best years are short, and Steiner knows how quickly a career can fade if you stay loyal to the wrong garage. Behind the scenes, the situation has created a fascinating dynamic. Piastri is known for his calm, analytical personality. He rarely lashes out or lets frustration spill over in public, but those close to him say he's increasingly questioning how McLaren make their decisions. It's not about pace, it's about principle. The FIA's penalty was harsh, perhaps even unfair. But what cut deepest was McLaren's refusal to protest. That kind of inaction can poison trust faster than any mechanical failure. Steiner believes that for a driver as ambitious as Piastri, knowing that your own team won't fight for you is worse than losing a race. It plants a seed of doubt that's impossible to ignore. Steiner's criticism of McLaren also taps into a bigger debate in Formula One, the sport's growing tendency to prioritize image over passion. McLaren, once known for fiery rivalries and fearless competition, has become, in Steiner's words, too polite. He argues that their corporate structure and PR-driven decision-making are suffocating the raw emotion that defines the great teams. He's seen it before. Teams that become so obsessed with control and reputation that they forget what made them great in the first place. Meanwhile, Norris's surge to the front has only made the situation more delicate. He's been flawless in recent races, winning back-to-back Grand Prix, and his form has shifted the team's focus. McLaren insists both drivers are treated equally, but Steiner and others suspect that subtle preferences in setup direction, pit strategy, and who gets priority during key calls have tilted the balance. It's not malicious, but it's enough to change the psychological dynamic. Piastri knows it, the engineers know it, and that tension can slowly eat away at a team's atmosphere. The irony is that McLaren's refusal to confront the FIA might have been an attempt to avoid drama, to show professionalism and composure. But it's had the opposite effect. By staying silent, they've sparked a wave of criticism that's now threatening to overshadow their success. Steiner's attack has amplified that tension and forced the team into the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Fans who once admired McLaren's unity are now questioning whether they're too afraid to take risks, too protective of their image, and too hesitant to defend their own when it matters most. For Piastri, the next few races are more than just a test of speed, they're a test of faith. He's still young, but he's fiercely intelligent, and he knows that championship windows don't stay open forever. The question he faces now is whether McLaren will evolve into the kind of team that fights for him, or if he'll have to find one that will. Steiner's advice was brutal but honest. If they won't fight for you, fight for yourself. McLaren's leadership have so far avoided responding publicly to Steiner's comments. But inside the paddock, the silence speaks volumes. Everyone knows that in this sport, perception shapes reality. The longer they stay quiet, the more people will believe Steiner is right. It's a dangerous position for a team that prides itself on transparency and fairness. If they don't step forward soon, the narrative might spiral beyond their control. And once that happens, even a strong car can't fix a fractured team. As the final rounds of the season approach, the spotlight on McLaren is brighter than ever. Their title hopes still exist mathematically, but emotionally, the cracks are widening. Steiner's criticism has peeled back the corporate polish and exposed something far more human: insecurity, indecision, and a loss of identity. And if Piastri really is considering his future, it's not because he's giving up, it's because he's realizing what every top driver eventually does. Talent means nothing without a team willing to fight beside you.